This is where we're going to be headed. Border Clubhouse are gone. Villa and Coastline are next. Theme Park once again left until the final decision, and it's this time that it's Wildcard that takes it out.
Yeah.
We head to Kafe. Interesting.
It is interesting because it's been a strong map for Wildcard before.
Yep.
Something I was saying in the map videos for Wildcard series last night, though, is we don't really know how much of their track history on maps you can really say counts anymore, considering the big change of 2 players.
Yep.
Maybe they have lost all synergy on Kafe. Sometimes you really don't find that out until an official. You can do it in scrims, and you're like, yeah, the Kafe's still good for us, or the map's still alright.
A little bit different when it's...
Yeah, when it comes to the actual dance, sometimes you are stepping on toes.
Wow. You just have all of the good ones. All these lines that you've been coming out with for the past 2 nights. I'm impressed. I'm going to up my game.
That was my goal.
I love that. So let's have a look at Kafe for Wildcard. We've got a 7-2 result from the Pittsburgh Knights. We've got 7-1 against Kanga and a 6-6 draw against Fury. When we flip it over and we look at Elevate, we see a 7-5 result against Sinister. That was in the first half of the season, which I actually think that's a lot closer than what it should have been for Elevate's sake. And they beat Fury 7-1 on Kafe. If you want to line up the Fury matchup, on one hand, Elevate 7-1, Wildcard 6-6. So
yeah.
But again, we don't. I'm just stating these facts so we understand the history of both of these teams on these maps.
Yep.
It pretty much means nothing.
Yeah, it's really hard to draw any conclusions from that. One kind of poetic thing you could say is Gio's first debut was that match against Sinister on Kafe for Elevate. And the first round he played, he got a 1v5 clutch. So here he is again on Kafe, playing against his old team where he got that star play. In fact, it featured in top 10 plays globally. So yeah, it's a little bit poetic, I guess.
Juicy. I love it. I'm going to ask you again. I don't think I need to ask you. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I actually have no idea now.
Yeah.
Like, I was so confident coming into the first map based on how Wildcard played last night, Elevate's form, all that kind of stuff. But seeing how Elevate played on Consulate, I'm worried for them. This is really tough to call now. I might even say this could be a draw.
Could be a draw. All right, well, let's have a look at what you... Let's have a look at what you thought at home. Here we go. We got there in the end. It was a little ebbs and flows. We're reaching the end conclusion. Not as different from the last matchup, but people are definitely still on the Wildcard bandwagon.
Yeah, and I think this is probably a fair reflection. I mean, they just played really well on the first map. So if there was going to be a community poll that was maybe a bit skewed or lopsided, it would have been the first one. But this one, I think, reflects kind of where we're at pretty well.
Yep.
Definitely expectations for Elevate maybe dropped a little bit after that last match. Or you could say increased, because really they should be performing better than that 7-2 result.
Expectations from one map to another, yeah, we definitely expect a lot more from Elevate. However, this is the wild card that we have come to know and love from last season. So I think that it's kind of fitting that we are seeing it go back that way. But this is the time for Elevate to step up. They've got pretty much 2 matches left after this against 2 different teams to consider that top 2 placing. They've had a phenomenal season so far. They would hate to see it crash and burn now. It's Wildcard they're up against.
It is, and they will have to be prepared for the Wildcard Kafe, because it has been positive in the past. They've had some great results on Kafe. Whether they can still replicate that with Pat and Gio in the roster, we will very soon find out. A buck ban actually coming out of Elevate, an operator they themselves use quite a lot. Quite interesting, but also very effective on Kafe, given the vertical play potential on this map.
Mirror now being banned out, which was actually let through on Consulate and was used to such delight. And as seeing that last ban echo, well, man, I'm a wizard. No, it is way too common to see poor Echo banned out. And from here, where do we go? Thatcher and Buck? I feel like Thatcher I've seen banned multiple times. I was going to say on Kafe, but just in general, it just seems to be a very common thing nowadays.
Yeah, the Thatcher and Echo ban in general are just strong bans because they've... Well, Echo is a frustrating operator to play against. It creates a massive emphasis on good use of IQ or really good eyesight on your drones. And Thatcher just speeds things up. That means attacks can happen quicker because you can clear that utility with little thought. You just have to know that it's there, chuck the EMP grenade down, boom, it's gone.
happen.
So with Thatcher off the board, it just means that attacks have to bring IQ or have to be droning things out, checking for utility, designing ways to clear that with less ease.
Could be very interesting to see how this will develop. Of course, Elevate starting on the attacking side. And it's something we spoke to TBD last night about, the fact that you can kind of set yourself up for either failure or success depending on what particular ban you decide to take out. For example, the Buck ban is something that TBD kind of not throw in the Buck ban, but they threw in a similar operator that we knew that Wildcard were. Can't remember which operator it was. Can you cast your mind back? No, you cannot.
Sorry, bro.
That's okay, that's okay. TBD banned out a certain operator, and what it meant was when we swung across to that second side, Wildcard didn't have one of their main operators. They didn't have that kind of X factor on Villa. So
I think it was the Thatcher.
Yeah,
Pretty
there
sure
we go.
it was the Thatcher.
Yeah. So, you know, it can be a double-edged sword, but it is also calculated. So I'm very interested to see where we go from here. But 2-minute 50, and we're off and running.
Speaking of calculated, I mean, the operator lineup is a little strange on the side of Elevate. I mean, not super strange, but the big standout here is Worthy on the Nook. Gets a bit of play on this map. Well, she's not going to be effective in this round as Ethan just completely shuts him down. Worthy, pretty impressed by that, or maybe not impressed.
Yeah, right. I don't know what you'd be, more frustrated? I think frustrated is probably the best way to put that.
Yeah.
And now the one storyline we were trying to build there, Raven, they've just snatched it away from you. So unfortunate. We can now move on to what will be the man disadvantage for Elevate, and having Milk off the board, potato. So Diesel at the moment sitting in peculiar position. That is going to be the Goyo shield done and dusted. And Elevate, very similar attack style what we saw on Consulate.
Yeah, and that Nook pick as well, just quickly going back to it, I believe it's Aces from Rogue has often played Nook on a couple of different maps, and I'm pretty sure Kafe as well. I guess the rush up the white stairs might have been the play, or the counter push up the white stairs more so. Either way, it's not going to have effect. Elevate taking Piano here, half the round ticked away, so not too bad on the time management. They have the Maverick for the hard breach. That's a great shot from Geo though. Sure, and Gold Legion won't have a chance to have an effect on the round now. And again, that hard breach on Digital with Maverick is going to be tricky to achieve given the holes that are right next to the main wall that he'll be wanting to put an impact into Freezer.
A drive-by from Geo, hey? Every time it looks like Elevate is starting to make their way back into the round, Wildcard have something to say about it. Air jab. Making its mark, and Digital now just holding the line. Emo Rin as well. It's a stalemate of sorts. A standoff as Digital now starts to edge around the corner, and Emo Rin will take that. There's no potential for a trade just yet, but on the other side, Haas doesn't expect it. It's rather red, sorry. And Haas looking for a head, not going to be given that either. Wildcard with an explosive first round, and Elevate a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, and wow, like those last three engagements were just all Elevate not hitting their shots. Got to highlight Digital. He was the one peeking into the bathroom, very much aware. It looked like that Imorin was in the position, but just didn't hit his shot. Actually lost the gunfight. Imorin is a great player to take his ones. And Elevate just not looking too sharp at the moment. Only one round played. Wildcard continuing some strength though, and it means they will change to the Reading Fireplace bomb site. Elevate need to get back into this because it feels like it's been quite a while since we've seen a good round come out of them.
Well, it's been 5 rounds since we've seen Elevate actually win a round, let alone have a good round. So that's not to say that there hasn't been at least some sort of a decent attempt in amongst all of the myths, but we are not that impressed from what we saw in the first half of the season. This is concerning signs. Whether this is Wildcard stepping up to their potential, Elevate may be dropping in their own. That could be something that we do look at on the micro, the macro as well. Tell this story at the end of this match. It might well and truly be changing.
10 seconds to go.
There's definitely always the chance that this could have been difficult for Elevate to prepare for, given the fact Wildcard has brought in 2 new players, which means things might have dramatically changed. You could talk about how maybe they had more, you could say they had more VODs on Wildcard, given they actually played it Invitational, all that jazz, but it might count for absolutely nothing, given that they've done the roster changes. Strats could be completely different, their playstyle probably quite different. That can be really hard to prepare for. It's in fact just preparing for a new team. So it could just be that Elevate's prep has been really off, and they're caught off guard by what Wildcard's doing, and they're just struggling to adapt to that.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Adapt to survive. That's exactly what's needed
Bomb
from
located
Elevate
by
here.
attackers.
Prerequisite was pretty much that they had to at least win one of these maps to stay in the running. They are still hot on the heels of Fnatic, but it is going to require Fnatic to drop some points here or there, and next week's going to be so spicy when we get to it, but that's a whole nother game, a whole nother ball game. Elevate this time, not wasting a lot of time. Actually, it's going to be the Ash and the Sophia leading the charge. Obviously droned out as well. Emo Rin getting somewhat of a haircut. Other than that, there hasn't been too much of a problem.
I like the push here from Vast to use this hole and push the stuns over, just to give them a chance to try and clear out that utility. He actually saw someone through the floor for a second there. I don't reckon he even realized. So focused to clear the barbed wire, does dodge a C4. Elevate not mucking about as much on the map control here. Really important that they get Cocktail, and especially without losing people or using too much utility, because it's a critical stage, but there's still a lot to do once you get the Cocktail control. It's a very critical engagement about to happen.
Oh, well, Digital's going to come in from behind and take down Diesel. They've still got to be careful. They didn't realize. Oh, Emo Rin for 2. Oh, they don't do their due diligence. They think that maybe Emo Rin has backed away or the player was there, died. And it's flipped up on its head.
Yeah, I have to say that was potentially a communication issue. Digital pushing down, getting the smoke on the white stairs, but maybe not communicating that it was the smoke he killed, not sure. Either way, it has meant that Elevate are in a man disadvantage, trying to run it back. In fact, Red does find a nice little double there, which means it's 2 versus 2 into this final 40 seconds. They haven't put much effort into pushing on the bomb site. They've got the vertical control, they've flushed out some positions, but they don't have much time to be able to deal with the rest of it.
Certainly not. Pat, realizing that at least one of those members are across toward the staircase, just needs to be a little bit cautious. Red now drops down the hatch straight onto the site. They might try and stick this here. Geo goes down. It's all on to Pat. Can he step up? No, he cannot. His former team would be having somewhat of a laugh. They've been able to shut that one out this time.
Yeah, it was actually really well played from the 2 remaining. It was a 2 versus 4, let's remind you. They managed to get the 4 picks themselves. And you know what? It was well played from Worthy. He covered Red beautifully. The rotate was nice and swift. Red getting in for the plant. And also some poetic justice there. Worthy taking out his former teammate, Pat. They both were on Kanga together. Now they've ended up on 2 separate teams. Means Elevate has tied it back up at 1-1. Rob, they finally got this round back. Could be a start of some momentum here.
Yep.
Defenders, protect your
We always
bombs
like to
from
see
being
what they
used
can
by
build
attackers.
off. And it can just start with 1 round. We saw it yesterday. With Sinister in, what was it, the 4th round, I think it was. And from there, they took 6 rounds straight from the 1 match from the Knights. And you definitely don't want to be riding that off. Elevate are an extremely good team, and all it can take is 1 minor misstep on Wildcard's behalf, and they've just let a monster loose.
5 seconds to go.
Yes, and the Arm Kitchen bomb site now, a favorite for a lot of teams. Can be tricky to deal with. Interesting castle strat there from Geo, just basically sectioning off that red hallway completely. More commonly, if you were to do that, there's a rotate hole in through that north wall towards the red stairs. So you can play a little more freely around there. But that's just a little quarantine zone, basically. They can run freely in and out with the coat check room, but it's not something Elevate will have to worry about. For example, if they take Bakery, that whole angle is covered already. So it actually can create some comfort for the attackers. I'm really curious to see where it fits into Wildcard's strategy. Right now, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of its effectiveness.
Elevate, top down, roam clear, and this is just so similar to what we're used to seeing now. Very methodical in their approach. They don't really want to allow Wildcard any extra space, and maybe that is the occasion in which they were able to claw the round back, which has been their patience, has been the virtue that's supported them so far. Still such a potential for a landslide here. If Wildcard can grab this round back and start to put a little bit more pressure onto the attackers, it might unsettle Elevate just enough.
Pat being stubborn, not really repositioning. He got droned out once, shot the drone, shoots another drone, so he's taking out 2 drones in this position. And he's still really just holding the same angle. And Elevate not doing anything to follow it up, so that's 2 drones lost for very little engagement. Digital finds his own engagement though to open it up again. So Elevate finding these opening kills is putting them in good positions. Very well spread out and getting some good vertical control here. Pat does try to peek on a red, but he wins that engagement. Elevate again, pushing ahead with a strongman advantage. It was Emo Rin that opened it up for Wildcard in the previous round, giving them that advantage, but Elevate seem to be on top so far.
Distracted by that vertical play, walking back into Worthy's position. Worthy can't capitalize. Ethan finds a second. He's given Wildcard a breath in this round. And now they still might be able to capitalize off this. Elevate still need to be careful here.
Yeah, really some poor timing there on the push onto Ethan. After he got that first pick, the player dropping, I think it was God Legion on the sledge. If he just waited the extra second, him and Vast could have pinched. I reckon they could have essentially saved each other. But not to be, it is 3 versus 2, and completely not expecting Diesel to be playing on the stairwell. Digital picks the diffuser up and goes on the hunt, but they have completely lost the position of where Diesel is. He's rotated through to the dining room, watching the brown stairs. He might be able to catch the Ash off guard. Misses the shots though, great shots from Vast. Final 10 seconds though, Rob, they need to push to site.
Yeah, Geo as well is repositioned, and Elevate have absolutely no clue where he is. Is he able to hold that line? He'll be able to find the one. The fuser has to go down here. He knows that he's got to stick it. He'll start to push. Has he got enough time there to hold on to it? Pulls off just in the nick of time.
1 HP.
Geo again in another clutch position for Wildcard.
Oh, Digital is going to be absolutely spewing the fact that he was 1 HP. Nice clutch though from Geo. He has saved multiple rounds for Wildcard in this series. Means they will edge back in front now at 2-1. Elevate, it was a really good push in the end, but just some mistiming and some misplays that push down White Stairs, giving Diesel that kill onto, I believe it was Worthy. Gave Wildcard the look in that they needed.
Attackers need to protect.
Jeez Louise. So close there.
Yep.
So close. Just had enough time to get off that defuser as well. Like you said, Digital will be a little bit upset. Might have been fitting as well. Digital did open that round, so had he had closed it, would have been a very impressive feat. And now we will be going back to that top floor, which I want to say I rarely see defensive side lose.
It's definitely a strong bomb site. It requires a lot to deal with. And one thing that Elevate weren't able to do last time, due to the fact that they brought a Maverick and the way Wildcard's set up, was they never had a good line of sight through Freezer from Piano. That wall on the other side of Diesel there on the west of Freezer really commonly open, so you can really cut all the way through towards the top of White Stairs. But with that Maverick, they just weren't able to get it open. So now they've got the Habana, much more achievable. No matter whether they can not lose those early picks, because, I mean, Worthy died in the first 20 seconds, and he was trying to do a pretty offhand Nook play.
Yep. Yeah, that was, you know, a deterrence to the rest of that round, and definitely not going to be taking that same approach, right? So it's okay. We're okay for now. Elevate have been very cautious in everything they've done. And so far, from map 1 to map 2, the results really haven't shown the style of play, unfortunately. Maybe that has seen them so much success in that first half of the season. Diesel in a very similar position to what we saw before. God Legion just getting that information. Shield, adios.
Clearing it out nice and early is always going to be helpful, given the time that it burns away. If you aren't clearing Goyo shields early in the round, or as early as possible, that they will come back to bite you. So good that that's cleared. They've essentially flushed out the piano position. It's just Emo Rin playing in Pixel there, with the Goyo shield in itself. And no real... Oh, no, there is an ADS there next to him to catch those grenades, being burnt by the stun grenades. Elevate look poised to be able to take piano at a similar time to last time. It was around 1:30 when they finally breached in. And it's going to be the progress they need, otherwise Wildcard will have far too much control.
So they itch their way in. Emo Rin obviously standing up strong in that first round for Wildcard there, dropping 2 of the members from Elevate as they came around the Pixel corner.
Diesel playing below with the C4 on the mute is in fact what downs God Legion in mining. They don't have the intel on him, so he is able to slip away, looking to play just under the pillars section there. With no C4 though, no massive effect, but with intel can use his shotgun to deny a plant. Elevate not leaving themselves a whole lot of time here. Emo Rin with a cheeky little peek as that breach gets opened by Digital, and that means that that is the only use of Hibana that they'll have.
Oh, is he going again? Have they seen him? Yes, they have, and now he is stuck. In fact, he will be finished off. God Legion not having a bar of it. Diesel now chiming in on a Vast. And Elevate, they are starting to look, speed this up a little bit further here.
They are, and they're trying to push through Freezer. A nice pick from Worthy. Worried about the white stairs. A beautifully placed C4, but it's traded straight back. These trades coming out to make it a 2 versus 2 for this final execute, Rob.
Diffuser is dropped, but God Legion, surely this doesn't happen. Surely he is not the reason that Elevate managed to come through. Diesel with little information. Looking for a Hail Mary there and not going to be given it either. No frag grenades left. Diesel will look to come back up white stairs. Watching that line. God Legion pulls off for half a second. Knowing full well that this push will come in. The off angle. Does it catch him out? Absolutely not. Diesel, point blank, will not miss that any day of the week. And Wildcard once again managed to pull it out at the death.
Really well played by Diesel. He had a massive advantage there, not just with the shotgun to play a close quarters gunfight, but also God Legion already quite low on HP. I think he was around 15 or 20, so not even needing to land all of the shotgun pellets to get that frag. Again, nice clutch from Diesel. Clutch is really getting it for Wildcard here. That's 2. It could really be 3-1 in the other direction at this stage.
Clutches are plentiful. And this, when you think about the mentality of a team, it can go one of 2 ways for Elevate. They can be getting tilted because of the fact they're getting clutched on, or they see it in hindsight and they realize how close these rounds are actually coming, and it's the fact that Wildcard are having to clutch them out. And both are just as kind of detrimental to themselves. Clutching round after round is never a good thing. Rather for the receiving end, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, that last round was just a great example of the kind of arm wrestle of a matchup we have here. Just trades coming out left and right, and they were from not necessarily good, not good positions, but difficult positions, and just some confident plays to achieve that. To bring it all the way down to the 1v1, I think it really did justice to how that round was playing out. And I just kind of wish God Legion had a little bit more HP in that engagement, because again, that kind of would have done a bit more justice to how that round was playing out. But either way, we can't take credit away from Diesel. Wildcard looking pretty good in the defense half here on Kafe. Got 2 more rounds to try and get under their belt before we will see Elevate take on the defense.
Maybe we'll see a completely different game when that happens. Now Pat on that pulse. Sitting into mining there, so if he stays close, he will find extra intel. There we go. We saw that this was actually quite a spot of bother for Elevate in that previous match on Consulate. This was when Geo clutched out in a 1v3 on the Pulse. Arguably, never should have been in that situation. It was a 3v3 for the vast majority, so will we see Pat called upon for a similar clutch? Wait and see.
That vertical is definitely a bit of a weakness for Elevate. That mute on digital, creating some havoc in that previous round in itself. We'll have to be a bit more aware. We saw a pretty aggressive take from Elevate last time towards Cocktail. It was vast on that Ash, and Legion following it up to try and clear it out. Rin catching them off guard though, getting that double kill. And this was a round that Elevate won. In fact, the only round they won, and it was a 2v4 at that. Hopefully they can find some more success this time, or will we continue to see Wildcard trend towards winning another map?
So far, the scoreline is suggesting that not so much the performances in these rounds, just not going to be able to make those shots work because Diesel from below will claw his way into this one.
C4s again, really just opening it up for Wildcard. A trade coming back finally onto Diesel. Position flushed out. Elevate pushing deep. They are finding these picks, but not at any cost. There is HP taking off. Refrags again. Rin just holding strong in this Cocktail position. He's been so tricky to flush out, and it's just costing Elevate a lot. And the fact that it's under a minute now and he's still alive, I think really going to work in the favor of Wildcard.
This could be huge for Gia. I don't know whether they know the location. I mean, I'm assuming that they do at this point, but Rin has backed away. And for the cost of, like you're saying, pretty much nothing. It's been really hard for them to deal with him. Gio on a really nice line here. Can just play passive. There's 30 seconds left on this clock, Raven. Elevate need to start making critical decisions here.
I'm going to say there's no way they know he's there, because Worthy peeking towards the white stairs, not even thinking about looking down the hallway, really indicates that that's just not something I think is happening. But they've all dropped off now. This is going to be where Gio's going to have to time it well. A great shot from Rin. That's the diffuser that's gone deep. Bit of a misplay, but they're going to have to try and get this plant down.
Worthy 1v2 has to try and find the initial kill and not going to be given it. Elevate send the diffuser in quite deep and don't really have the requirements to trade that out. Both players spaced in an awkward amount. Requires them to just go one by one. The Ants, my friend, the Ants will go marching and Wildcard will welcome them with a magnifying glass.
There's a chance that they really just made the decision to go deep because of the vertical holes that had been made. Very easy for somebody to have retaken through the red stairs and play the vertical holes as they try and plant in default positions. But it did not work out at all. Wildcard are up 4-1. And I mean, if Elevate can get this round, bring it back to 4-2, that's not so bad. The fact that Buck and Thatcher are banned really does make attacking on this map much trickier. And defense usually prevails on this map, so it's not necessarily a terrible position or an unfamiliar position for teams to be on this map.
Yeah.
But for Wildcard to go up 5-1, giving them that confidence and basically a one-round chance to secure at least a point would be a really tough position for Elevate to be in.
Too true. Too true, Raven. So it is do or die for the first half, and I'm not going to reiterate what you've just said. It's pretty much being called upon for Elevate now. Such an incredible start to the first half of Pro League, but this was the biggest question we had coming out of that first half. They had Wildcard, Fnatic, and TBD to play. Those are the three best teams in the region outside of Elevate themselves. And so this was always going to be a question of, was the first half just because they were playing those lower level teams? Or is it because they were on fire? And I think we're starting to get somewhat of an answer here in map 2 for Wildcard. Almost bullied them.
Yeah, they really have controlled a lot of this series. I mean, they do have the 2 clutch wins on this map, but regardless, it's not like they came totally from behind on those rounds. They still performed very strongly. Elevate need to step it up here. Just at least, if anything, to gain some momentum and some kind of positivity that you can latch on as you enter that next half, because they're going to have to dig deep on defense regardless. They're coming from behind.
Nice try, Ethan, question mark. Obviously going for a run out there and not being rewarded for it. Upset his spaghetti, and unfortunate to do so, but he gets away scot-free, so it really is one of those cases where there's no harm, no foul. Emorin sitting on, oh my word. Could have been cheeky. Main word there being could have. Should have, would have.
Yeah, C4s have been a big factor against Elevate or working for Wildcard. So again, if they're not too careful with this vertical play, they're trying to put a lot of vertical pressure. Fair enough, but they keep getting caught off guard. They will need to be careful again. Wildcard also catching them off guard with just aggressive positioning. Last time that they were defending this, they were pushed up very far, playing around the white stairs quite heavily, top of red quite heavily. And that did mean that Elevate took a long time to take map control. But this time, actually, they forfeited it. And it means that Elevate can progress on this second floor and start to put a little bit of pressure onto site. But they haven't given themselves a whole lot of time, as they're less than a minute now.
My device is ready.
Obviously now the Nomad cutting off. So rotates. Red trying to find a deep line, but isn't going to be given anything just yet.
Device in position.
All the stairs now locked down, so Wildcard are stuck on that bottom floor unless they want to make noise, unless they want to be taken out. That will now have to back away. C4 coming a little bit too little too late. Oh, does Pat go for a peek here? He's got to go for the 1v1. He's got the right line, but he just can't hold enough. And Vast will open up with Red backing it up.
A nice pick there as well from Red, but again, 15 seconds, they have to explode onto site, but they have a really solid man advantage. Now they have intel of Ethan in his position. A great drop from the hatch. Imran trying to make his mark. Plant is going to have to attempt to go down here. Digital is the one with the fuser. Well, Worthy is on the ground. Eventually a 2v1. Plant is happening. They're going to have to cover this. It's not covered by the player close, and he's going to be able to deny it. Not covered at all from the hallway. Wildcard again able to clutch out a round rob. This is going to have to be adding up to some difficult mindset challenges for Elevate.
That is 4 massive clutches in the first 2 maps of tonight. Wow, Emo Rin. We saw that from Emo Rin last night as well on Villa, coming around the vault door in a 1v3 to deny that diffuser in the last second. You have to be asking questions of Elevate now. Is the pressure getting too much? Are those mind games of losing these clutches that detrimental? A 5-1 half. It definitely does not feel like that is an equal representation of how this game has gone.
Yeah, and that feeling, again, really indicates the fact that Wildcard, 3 of their 5 rounds were clutches that were clearly Elevate rounds, given the situation they were in when the timer hit 0. And just then, I really think that alluded to some potential communication issues within Elevate. I think it was the Zofia really hard left against that double door that Imran picked off first. He died, and there was about a 2-3 second lag before he pushed the planter. That player in red hallway just never really peeked back to cover that cross. So some miscommunication or lack of, not 100% sure. Either way, face with Wildcard up 5-1. Only a round away from securing a point, and that means that Elevate would be faced with a situation of only taking a point out of this series at best.
Attacker's objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Crazy that that is a thought after last night and after the last half of the Pro League season. It definitely would, you'd be asking questions if you saw this result, as we are right now. Out of that entire clutch from Emo Rin, my favorite part of it was Ethan afterwards.
Emo goat.
Emo goat.
Bomb located by attacker.
Yeah.
What would an emo goat look like?
Good luck sheep, I guess. With some
Would it-
spikes somewhere. I don't know.
A bomb
Quite
has
strange,
been
at least.
located.
Wearing a spiky collar.
Elevate on their first defense will be, of course, taking that top floor. We mentioned as Wildcard defended, it is quite tricky to attack. Requires some good time management to clear out Piano, and without the Buck and the Thatcher, can create some big difficulties. He's the head of that player at Pixel. Vast helmet actually saving him maybe that millimeter of the hitbox. Not actually viable to be shot by Pat. Burnt off a minute now, but Elevate sitting strong in Piano. Vast actually quite aggressive around the couches there in Piano.
Something we saw last night from the Habana Bun as well. Giving them the extra,
That's right.
the extra inch to bait out some shots here. And now they're kind of sick of it. Not going to be given anything just yet. And it comes now. God Legion needs to be careful as this push will come around this corner. He needs to hit that first shot. Otherwise, he's more than likely going to be overwhelmed there. Instead, he gets aggressive. And on that line, he's now completely backed away. Wildcard haven't been able to take a hell of a lot of ground yet.
Yeah, and he does a little bit of damage to Imarin there, and that's a big positive of Wamai and his loadout. So God Legion playing the Org, which is actually an attacker's weapon, means it has that higher damage, and you can take some pretty comfortable engagements because it's easy to chip away at that HP. Wildcard finally taking this piano control. They will enter. They've got less than a minute though. Haven't had any chance to work on the freezer wall or even that bathroom wall, which we see looks like Vast playing still quite aggressively in that position.
Unfortunate self-flash there. Team flash, rather. Vast with the shoddy. Come around that corner and you'll be welcomed with a unwanted gift. 30 seconds, Raven. This is getting down to the wire. Not a single player off the board for either team. Geo will find the opening though. Now comes a little bit more of an entrance point. Vast needs to be careful with Emo-Rin holding that line. Ethan trying to take some shots. Only 15 seconds left here, Raven.
It is, and now they've got that long angle. Worthy actually contests through freezer. Vast finds another one. Actually, all falling is Wildcard, leaving it straight up to Pat. He's going to have to go deep and find some picks. He completely whiffs on the Maestro. Elevate find themselves another round. Feels like another drought has been finally broken there, and could be the start of a comeback. Too early to call, though.
You definitely don't want to be making bold statements. It's hard not to when you see something like that, though. Wildcard just had such little time to make it work. They still weren't in piano with 45 seconds remaining, only just opening up freezer wall with 30 seconds remaining. Geez, you're not really given too much room to wiggle or move. So we'll head to reading and fireplace for the second round of Elevate's defense. Pulse, will it be six pick back onto the pulse? Will it be hidden? Looks like we're going to be bringing the Vigil in the end. Nope, you absolute troll. Why?
Yeah, I'm not sure the purpose of hiding the Maestro. Maybe trying to bait Wildcard and to bring one less soft breacher. Potentially, they could have baited Pat and take different operator, but I don't think that was ever really going to happen. Regardless, Elevate will try to string 2 rounds together so they can form some kind of comeback. They did great with the explosive execute against Wildcard. Sometimes that can be tricky to deal with. It just happens all of a sudden, and it does come down to, of course, winning your gunfights. Elevate had great positioning there. One thing I really liked was Vast staying very passive and comfortable in the bathroom and allowing and trusting Red to cover him on that white hallway. And it meant they were able to get a 2K just between each other, putting them in a great position to win the round. What is going to be really critical here is, again, playing to the weakness of Wildcard in that time management being quite poor. If they can delay a lot of time on the vertical clear, they'll have a great opportunity to be able to close the round.
Very interesting to see whether this round will bring something different for Wildcard, a change of pace, maybe some early engagements. Regardless, in the opening duel category, which, I mean, look, we do put a fair bit of emphasis on. For obvious reasons, you don't really want to be going the man down too early, but it's been pretty even across the board. Both teams finding their fair share. Fast getting a tickle on the foot there, but will remain alive for now. God Legion, the last to remain on that top floor.
Just trying to abuse a bit of an angle that's tricky to push there from the skylight. You can't quite see it from either side, but he is quite deep. Got a player on Cocktail in digital to back him up. And so far, Wildcard have taken the time to track this out. Over a minute, they haven't entered piano. They've got the red stairs. Ethan on the window. He might try to enter now. Red below with the mute, so could play the C4 there. IQ can potentially scan out cameras or a pre-placed if it's there. Really going to come down to this next 40 seconds or so if Wildcard aren't able to obtain clean vertical control. Elevate will be sitting pretty for that final phase.
One thing's for sure, they've given up everything they needed to on that top floor, and just saying they're trying to grab that vertical potential, but how much a wild card knowing that there's no more pressure on that top floor. Seeing that they don't have the greatest clue, they do seem like they're playing quite defensively. Pat's still yet to come in, obviously cautious of a run out from maybe God Legion. Not going to be happening yet, so 50 seconds, Raven. Doesn't seem like a lot's happened, but Geo, it's a big opening.
Yeah, they have that vertical control now. 2 Elevate players have made their way towards the bottom of White Stairs. God Legion's sitting pretty, but Worthy actually going for a rotate. And this is where it's going to be really important that Wildcard have somebody watching, because actually all 5 are alive, especially late round. Oh my god, Emo just really marginally survived that C4. But with all 5 players up, nobody on a drone, right? And in really late round stages like this, you're probably going to want everybody focused on the plant. So this could be the opening here if a flank comes through.
Well, Ethan taking down Worthy. As you said, God Legion now starting to edge up a little bit further. He might be able to catch out Emo Ren. Doesn't look like... Oh, actually, in fact, he's been given it for free. Red will take down Diesel. God Legion massively steps up for Elevate. Oh, my word. How is the transfer on that, Raven?
That was nuts, and well played from them to close that out. Wildcard really did start to push into sight there, and it thought maybe they might have get the plant down, but perfectly timed was God Legion's push up White Stairs. As I was saying, Wildcard were too distracted on getting that plant down. They weren't watching that flank. They caught Worthy on the other side, and maybe that was part of Elevate's strat there. It was God Legion and Worthy looking to push together, but perhaps they timed it so that Worthy took the attention of Flank Watch to free it up for God Legion. Either way, it was well played by him. They're back within 2 rounds now, Rob. It's 2 rounds in a row, which is more than we can say for Elevate's efforts for most of the night.
That's for sure. I'm still nasty at God Legion there. Flicks for days. So we can move on from that and hopefully gain the momentum back into the favor of Elevate. We were saying it's been pretty lackluster, and it's now time for them to turn a new page in this chapter. Wildcard, will they allow them to continue to do so? Geo has opened up the last 2 rounds, and still they have lost. What a great stat to look at when you're talking in that fashion, but when you're leaving it so late in the round, there's a lot of pressure. By the time you finally get that opening, it doesn't feel like you've been able to gain enough space.
Seeing some very different strats employed here onto this bomb site. Wildcard really played heavy castles and quite the heavy turtle. They had a player roam a little bit, but once they pushed away, it was more just aggressive positions based around that first floor. Whereas Elevator putting a lot of presence off and a bit more of a free-flowing strategy here. Reinforced hatch also the difference. Wildcard keeping that open for rotates. Going to be interesting to see how hard Wildcard push out this roam. I mean, most teams will take that vertical control, and they've got the sledge there ready to open up the floor, traditionally in train or dining, to put pressure into the kitchen and prep area.
3rd floor, not even touched by Elevate. Emo Rin will have full roam. And it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. Knows full well that all of Elevate members are either on that 2nd floor or bottom floor, which it looks like they're not even interested in trying to contest at this point in time.
Just saw a cheeky little cam by Digital there. You can see that hole on the right side of train. He's thrown a camera onto that far wall on the west that Imarin not at all prepared for. And they're getting a lot of intel right now on how this vertical play is going to pan out. Without pings, I just would not expect Emo to peak there. So as long as they stay disciplined here, they're going to be able to have all of the intel on the sledge and potentially connect to C4.
Imorin quite cautious of this, but I mean, that's so much intel that they're able to gain. Imorin still not spotting it out. Trying to walk around freely as well.
I think he just got it.
Sooner or later it was about time, and now Wildcard will look to make a bit more of a long attack. Pat taking down Worthy. Once again, a good start, but if history serves correct, wait and see.
Yeah, they're clearing this wall utility now, which means that they can actually open that bakery wall, which is a big pressure point. So with that going open, we'll set Wildcard up for a pretty comfortable execute. Prep wall also opened by Diesel, so that allows them to hold that long angle with the rotate of that double window. Emo finds another off. It's just red, which means that Wildcard will have quite a strong man advantage coming into the final 35 seconds to the execute. They've really set themselves up here to be able to secure this round. It's going to come down to how Elevate can deny the plant.
They expect a digital in the corner. Yep, 100%. Pat checks it, clears it, on to the next. Ooh. Like a domino effect, Raven. Entirety of Elevate fall down on a flawless round for Wildcard.
Really solid round from Wildcard, and Elevate had some good stuff early round, but just didn't contest anything until Wildcard had all the control they needed to be able to hold on to it. So that means Wildcard have secured themselves at least another point, and Elevate are facing a situation they definitely won't be happy with, and that is at best getting 1 point out of this series. Considering how they played against Wildcard last season in the Pro League, they actually secured 4 points against them, so this is looking to be reverse of what we saw in Season 10. So that's definitely not something Elevate are going to be happy about, and considering what we saw from Wildcard last night, I am quite surprised with how this has been going.
Attackers need to locate and
Right
defuse
now,
bombs.
I believe, I will just confirm with you because I actually think that TBD are 1 point ahead of Elevate, if not actually smack bang on the money. TBD are 1 point ahead of Elevate, so right now a draw is actually crucial for the attack, rather than the defending side, because the last thing you really want to be doing is heading to a position where you're on equal matches with TBD and the round down, rather the point down. So we are tooth and nail coming back and forth. As you were touching on, it's in the season past, Elevate narrowly
Attackers are moving out to
escaping
locate a bomb and defuse
and
it.
getting, I don't want to say shafted, but unlucky.
Yeah. That, and also actually, it's worth pointing out, as you said, TBD would be 1 point ahead of Elevate if they can't secure the draw tonight. And in fact, Elevate's final match for the season is against none other than TBD. So that placement position there between where they finish can come down to that final match. It also depends on how both of them match up against Fnatic, because they both have Fnatic to play.
I was going to say next week is so nice, Raven.
Very spicy.
Oh, TBD and Elevate both have Fnatic on the cards. And then it comes to a sweet conclusion. You just can't write scripts like this, my friend. Elevate. Oh, hey, Vast. How you doing?
Very
We have a
aggressive
moment to
position
talk
there.
about our Lord and Savior.
Oh, no way! You just don't lose
So
those, man.
bad.
Oh no, yeah, that's unfortunate there, and that's an early pick too. They're going to get a lot of piano control. They want to drone this out, they can take that swiftly. Digital does have a nice little peek hole from the bathroom, which could slow them down, but that's a big pick to get so early. I was about to say, if history repeats itself in the rounds, Elevate would win the next two, and we would see it all come down to how they hold Kitchen in a 5-6 situation. But things have changed dramatically now with that opening pick and allowing them to get the control. Digital does peek out. Maybe ill-advised on that one, though. And look, it's 3 versus 4. Time management better here, though, for Wildcard.
Maestro and the Mozzie swapped out for the Zofia. Now all that remains, 3 players to stand up against Wildcard. Minus a 1 Pat. Ethan now clearing out. Even further information that Elevate can continue to press and put the attention more back onto the Talbar. Playing with fire there for Elevate, but they're going to have to do something. 45 seconds. Wildcard have been clawing away so far.
They have, and Elevate are going to have to do something as well, because they can't just let Wildcard take the control and start to get a plant down. Emo Rin, ooh, that's an aggressive push from Ethan, and maybe not so great, because not refraggable. That means that Elevate will have an even man advantage to try counter the execute. Red is below with the shotgun, so if they have the intel, he can deny. Looks like Wildcard are going to go for this execute, pushing deep here, Rob.
Elevate, unfortunately, just falling apart at the last second. I believe he's on top of the bar as well, so even if he tries to C4 that, no, it doesn't connect. Okay, I did not think that that was going to connect for a second, but Red's going to continue to push up this stair. And 1 versus 2, he's narrowed down the margins. I don't know if they know exactly where his position is. He's been able to push quite far on site. Unfortunately, it's little but an inch that gives him away. And the second he walks around that car, another bar, Wildcard will finish him off. And with that, the series, 2 wins on the back for Wildcard.
That's really big. We had a lot of scrutiny on Wildcard coming into this, and in fact, you could say we were even talking about it like we had them written off. They played quite poorly against TBD. They did manage to get a draw, at least in that second map. But regardless, it didn't look great. And even the way that Flux, their coach, was talking, didn't sound like he had they had massive expectations of themselves on how they would finish. But this has been a really strong performance, keeping Elevate to 2 rounds on the first map and 3 on the second is a pretty big deal.
Certainly is. And Emo Rin coming in the frag department anyway, quite large, 13 and 3 or something across those lines.
Yep.
So a huge step up from yesterday's matches, and I don't need to reiterate what you've just said there, because night and day, it is completely different what we've just seen. Elevate, we can ask the questions. What happened? Did Wildcard just outplay you? What are the issues here? What has gone into this? Is it the fact that, like you were saying very early on in the night, I don't know if most viewers would remember, the fact that you were alluding to the fact that it's hard to do research on Wildcard. Yeah, sure, they just played 6 Invitational. They've played more recently than what we've seen from Elevate, but that's not really a lot to go off.
Yeah, and it's not. And I mean, there were some things that are still similar Wildcard in the way that they play, but there were also some changes. And I mean, the fact that Pat and Gio were picking up actually quite a few frags in the series tonight means that they're playing quite aggressive roles, which is not what Derp and Neo were doing. They weren't playing really aggressive roles. Derp was playing more of that hard support, sometimes a bit of a flex.
Yep.
Neo played flex support as well, a lot of Thatcher. So I think quite different there in terms of the playstyle. Again, that really leads towards the fact that Wildcard probably have been difficult to prepare for Elevate.
Difficult to prepare would be probably the very least to say. I think, I can't even remember what the end of that scoreline was, 7-3.
Yeah.
So 5 rounds in 2 maps from Elevate when we came into this, pretty much solidly found that Elevate was going to be walking away with at least one of these series tonight, if not both. It's just, it does feel bad for Elevate, especially in their position in this season.
For sure, and I mean, I keep talking, or I was just talking a lot about the difficult to prepare for Wildcard side of it, but I don't want to take away from the fact that both Wildcard played really well, and Elevate just didn't. There seemed to be a lot of mistakes there. I noticed quite a few things that seemed like they were communication issues, which unfortunately we don't really know because we don't hear the comms, but things like positions not called out in a couple of those clutches, really crucial. I mean, we talked about in that first half, it could have been at one stage 3-1 in favor of Elevate. It was 2 clutches from Wildcard that changed their stars, and they managed to get even another one on top of that. So half of their defense round wins on Kafe were just 1vx situations.
And that's the whole point right now, is there were opportunities, right? We're not sitting here saying that Elevate were just completely outplayed, because it does come down to small minor details in these rounds, and not being able to close them out has really cost Elevate. Even that 1v3 with Gio that he was able to clutch out at the end of that first half in the first map, that still could have changed completely the way that we were looking at it. We were looking at, you know, a 3-3 half, and it's crazy how much the mind just kind of shifts when it goes from 3-3 to 4-2. All of a sudden, there's a lot more pressure on you, and hats off to Wildcard, and hats off to Gio in particular on that map, obviously being able to bring that one back, but it does take a certain amount of confidence to do what they've been able to.
Yeah, and I think that also points towards another thing that Flux only said in passing last night in the interview, but he actually verbalized the pressure's off for us. I think that makes a huge difference when you play out these officials, and against teams like Elevate and Fnatic that they're going to have coming up, just not feeling that perceived pressure because essentially they're looking to rebuild, can actually make you play much better.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a big factor in what we saw from Wildcard.
Well, Elevate had a fair bit of pressure coming into this.
Yeah.
Fortunately enough, we have Vast ready on the line to talk to us. Vast, how are you, mate? We spoke with you just before the matchup. Unfortunately, you haven't been able to get across the line today. How are you feeling after that one? Coming into this, everyone probably would have been more expecting Elevate to come away with this.
Yeah, very disappointed. Just didn't feel like we played like ourselves today. Just way too many simple mistakes that Wildcard capitalized on. But yeah, very disappointed.
Yeah, one thing we talked a bit about on the desk was whether some of that might have come down to the fact Wildcard could have potentially been a bit tricky to prepare for, given that their playstyle might have changed a lot with their new roster, and we didn't see them play until last night. So was that really a factor in how tonight panned out?
Yes and no. They did play very similar as they played last night. We kind of expected the same kind of play style, a lot of aggression, like smart aggression and flanking where they need to flank and just stuff like that. But yeah.
And going to more focus on you guys, was there something in particular within your team that you felt was letting you down? Some things I thought were maybe some communication issues or something that wasn't being called out efficiently. Can you give us some insight into what was happening within Elevate?
Yeah, I'd say definitely communication was the biggest thing today. As you were saying before, a lot of things were just miscalled, especially certain flanks. You know, we received wrong callouts for them that, you know, Wildcard were able to punish us for that.
Yeah.
And just some decision making as well, maybe doing the wrong, adapting the wrong way. Yeah, I feel like those two were definitely the biggest part.
Yeah.
Now, it is bad news for tonight. However, you still have the rest of the season to go. How are you feeling in terms of what you've got? You've still got, you know, some pretty big matches next week in Fnatic and TBD.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to let it get to our heads. It's obviously disappointing, but we're just going to watch the game back, try to fix. We know the issues that we made. They're very simple, and that's just the process. Is obviously games like this are going to happen. We're just going to watch the game back, try to fix our simple mistakes, and kind of forget about tonight and go into next week with a clear mind.
Yeah. Fair enough, fair enough. Unfortunate that tonight didn't go the way you planned, but however, I must admit, it is great to see you with the Elevate organisation. Would you like to say anything to the fans out there, maybe even the org owner themselves?
Yeah, just appreciate the support as always. We've had a lot of people that have, you know, continued to support us from Oddity now to Elevate, and now with Elevate we have even more fans as well. And yeah, just thanks to Elevate for picking us up. This is an opportunity that we've been wanting for a very long time. Where we're just going to work hard and stick around for next week, and we're definitely going to put in a lot of work for next week's games.
Beautiful. Love to hear the enthusiasm, mate. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Fella.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see they have some clear determination. They identified what was going wrong, and it already sounds like they're working towards just moving past it, not letting it carry on.
It's great to hear that. It's obvious. I mean, really hurts to see players come on and be so disheartened with the performance. It's very clear that Vast is not happy with the result, not happy with how they performed, but still at the end of the day, it's great to hear that they're still just looking forward to the rest of this season. Only 2 teams to play left, and they're 2 of the top teams at the moment. They're the top 2 teams. And it's just good to hear that overall, it's still okay on that ship. They're not disappointed, but they're not disheartened.
Yeah, and it shows you have to be really perfect, I guess, towards the end of the season here in the position of Elevate, given the stature of the opponents they're against. If they'd made similar mistakes like tonight against some of their other opponents, maybe they could have gotten away with some of them. Maybe some of those clutch rounds still would have gone in their favor, even with communication issues. But against the good teams, they're going to be able to capitalize on that and exploit it and punish you far more frequently. So they have to do a lot of work to tighten it up because there's not a lot of time between their matches next week.
And that is 100% what we had spoken about last night, which was the good versus the great, right? It really does differ. You can beat a good team by having issues. However, when you're coming up against one of the best teams, and make no mistake, no matter how bad the results have been for Wildcard, no matter how bad it was last night for them, they are still an incredible team and should be given the utmost respect, because this is what happens. You can start to see them claw it back, and I don't know, do you feel like this could be a new leaf for them?
It's definitely the start of that. I mean, now they've got something to latch on to that's positive, because they had difficult performances the first half. They had a really poor performance, there's no other way to say it, at Six Invitational. They had a poor performance last night, and now finally they've had a dominant performance against a good team that's been in form most of this season. So they can latch onto that, and it's really going to lay a foundation for them to just move up from.
And it is stepping stones. It is constantly getting better and better. We were worried last night that it was the Band-Aid fix, the Band-Aid method that we see quite often, which is just kind of slapping it on and hoping that things continue to either just progress through and just, you trek through the season, or whether it's an ability to actually adapt to your environment. And with how many, with the teams that they have to play, the fact that Fnatic were up against TBD last night, Elevate tonight, and then Fnatic next week, I really do think it's a testament to how far they've come just in this really short period of time.
Absolutely. And another thing that you were speaking a lot about at the start of the night, about the format and the best of ones, or the double best of ones in a single night, we said it would highlight when you're having an off night. And that's really what's bit Elevate in the behind tonight, is just they had a bad night, comms were off, and it's lost them 2 maps.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
It's absolutely devastating. It's not devastating for one team.
No.
That, of course, is Wildcard. Let's hear from Silex on what he thought. Silex, welcome back. It's good to see you again after maybe an hour or so. How are you feeling after that? It's a very good performance, mate.
Yeah, feeling pretty good. It's nice to finally put some solid wins under our belt. We played a lot better tonight compared to last night, so that's promising that we're on the up.
Yeah, I want to ask, is there something in particular that's switched between last night and tonight? Because obviously it's only 24 hours difference. Was there something that's made a dramatic improvement within the team?
Like last night, could have been some nerves with 2 of our new players, Gio and Jono. I mean, not Gio, Jono's Gio. Gio and Pat. Tonight, they were much more relaxed. Compared to last night, the comms were quite panicky. Today, much clearer. Some key things that I noticed were like mid-round adaptations and micromanagement just before executes were like right on the ball. So that really helped tonight.
For sure.
So,
I want to ask too, did Paul Flux get shafted when you lose for interviews and you just get the winning interviews? Is that how it's set up here?
Well, maybe it should do it like that. No, last night I couldn't actually do it.
Okay.
Sorry to everyone who wanted to see my beautiful mug.
Yeah, we definitely missed it.
Yeah, we certainly did. Now, we're going to move on from this week and think about next week. How are you feeling coming up against Fnatic? Do you feel like you're going to match up quite well, or is this a game that you're a little worried about?
It's going to be a pretty good match. Like, their playstyle seems completely different compared to when they had, who'd they even have recently? My brain's just, yeah. Oh my god.
Silex, no!
Yeah. It's been a long day, okay? Yeah, haven't seen him play since they've lost Virtue. Aces is back. Great support player. There's like no real pressure on us, as Flux said last night, and you guys said just before. There's no land to make this time round. We're just gonna go in positive, work on like our game, and see how we go.
Beautiful. Any final words?
No, just shout out to everyone who's like still supporting us. Props to all you guys, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys, well, playing for you guys again next week.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Silex. We'll see you next week.
See you, boys.